What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Mets Postgame Show right here on the channel and on X. And that is a sweep of the San Francisco Giants, as San Francisco is the cleanest city in America because they just got swept, Mets fans. 7 in a row, 2 sweeps in a row. Ronnie Mauricio says, Vientos, I'll pack your bags tonight to get traded. This is my spot on the team. Oh, as the New York Mets win 5-3 in dramatic fashions. Of course, it wasn't easy at the end because it's never easy for the New York Mets in any situation, as they skipped by very, very close yesterday. And once again, with a couple of walks from Edwin Diaz, strikes out Willie Adames, strikes out the last batter of the game in Matt Chapman, and did the job, got the save, 7 in a row. What a performance by the New York Mets. The 7th inning was the winner. Ronnie Mauricio hitting a moonshot into McCovey Cove, into the bay. And then Mr. Juan Soto himself gives a little bit of insurance, hitting it to left field over the wall, getting his 25th home run of the season. Kodai Senga pitched well. Again, it's better than his last outing. He's got to limit those walks a little bit, gave up a couple of home runs. But overall, and it was the Matt Chapman show for the Giants. But overall, guys, it was an outstanding series for the New York Mets. We saw good offense. We saw good defense. We saw good pitching. The bullpen did not give up a run in this series, folks. Did not give a run up in this series. And look at Gregory Soto, the addition. How good did he look? How good did Gregory Soto look? And again, when you got 2 lefties in the bullpen, Mendoza can use them the way he feels. Now, again, when he brought in Raley, you're going to get the opposition pinch hitting for right-handers. But if you didn't have that extra lefty, Raley would have been used earlier in the game where Soto was used. And it could have changed the whole complexion of a ball game. You might have used somebody that might have had that pitched already in this series. And, you might want to give him a day off, but you needed him. That is the beauty of having an extra lefty in the bullpen, because it gives Mendoza options and where they use his lefties accordingly. That is something that Mendoza has never had. And I know you had Minter and, Danny Young, but, it was Minter and Danny Young. Now you got Brooks Raley and Gregory Soto. Huge difference. Reed Garrett, Gregory Soto, Edwin Diaz. Just an outstanding performance all around, where the New York Mets played their game, they limited their mistakes, and they made the Giants make the mistakes. Putting the bat on the ball, making them make errors, making them make mistakes. Look, they're a team that takes a lot of pitches, but they were striking out a ton in this series. They didn't make it easy for us, but we talked about this going on the West Coast. These are 2 teams in the Giants and the Padres that are fringe playoff teams. Both of these teams can have a bad week, and they're out of the playoff picture come trade deadline. And we talked about this. What did the Mets have to do? They needed to make no doubt that the Giants, who are now only 2 games over 500, as the Mets are now 18 games over 500, we're hovering right near that 20-game mark once again, which is a great sign. But you want to put these teams out of their misery, right? These are 2 less teams you might have to worry about in the National League. Right? The Giants are tricky. The Giants have some players. You can see that playing them in this series, right? You don't want to face them in a wild card series if that happens to be the case, right? That could be a dangerous team. The same thing goes for the San Diego Padres. Put them out of their misery, right? Would I love a sweep against the Padres? Great. Let's sweep the West Coast. I'd love it. But you know what? The goal here is to take 2 out of 3. Let's get greedy, but keep on winning series. You're 4 days away from the trade deadline, and it's about time for the New York Mets to establish even more that we are the team to beat. It's just that simple, folks. It's just that simple, right? I got a show later tonight. It's probably going to be a little after 11 o'clock. I know I put 11:05 as start time for the special Mets Trade Watch live, 11 p.m. tonight. It's probably going to be a little bit past 11 o'clock, 11:10, 11:15, only because, I'm doing this stream right now. I want to get at least a good 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes in before we head to the next stream tonight. It's just overall, they just need to get, again, just think a couple more missing pieces here, right? Ronnie Mauricio shown that the talent is there. He had the game of his career in the brief major league career, 4 for 4, huge home run. That is what the Mets vision for Ronnie Mauricio. I said this for a long time. I've always thought that David Stern's favorite two guys is Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Baty. I said that for a while. I even said that last year. And I think Acuna and I think Vientos, because he had the year he had last year, David Stearns wasn't going to move him from third base to start the season. But I don't think it was David Stearns' favorite player. Mark Vientos isn't a versatile player. He's a one-dimensional player. He's a hitter. And when he doesn't hit, he's pointless on a roster. Luis Acuna, I think, lost a lot of favorites. The people who thought, might have had him as a favorite. I think his attitude, I think his lackadaisical approach to the game, and I also think the lack of approach at the plate has hurt Luis Acuna in this organization. I think when they traded for him, I think, a lot of people believe that, he is a guy that is going to be, I'm not going to say a superstar, but I think it was going to be a very, very good player. I don't think he's going to be that. Unfortunately for the New York Mets, you got two guys in Vientos and Acuna that are expendable. And that's because of Ronnie Mauricio and what the Mets vision him a part of this team and what Brett Baty has been doing. It is something that Vientos and Acuna are expendable. There is no reason why Mauricio and Baty aren't on this roster on August 1st, while Vientos and Acuna are on elsewhere, getting us proven talent. And if that happens to be a combination of Luis Robert and Sandy Alcantara or Edward Cabrera and Cedric Mullins, or pick your combination. The fact of the matter is, guys like Brett Baty and Ronnie Mauricio are stepping up while Vientos is not, and Luis Acuna is just hovering around on the Major League roster, coming in to pinch run for Ronnie Mauricio in the last inning for defensive purposes. It's just exactly what, it's a perfect type of scenario here, right? If David Stearns was on the fence about Mark Vientos because they still didn't feel like Ronnie Mauricio hit that point yet, guess what? That might have changed his mind. And again, if Vientos is part of any deal, right, whatever it might be, if David Stearns was on the fence, I don't think he's on the fence anymore. And it has nothing to do with Mark Vientos and the lack of production. I just think the fact that Ronnie Mauricio shown his full talent tonight, his speed, his power, his athleticism going the other way. Now, I'd like Ronnie Mauricio to be a better right-handed bat. I think he should just get away with right-handed and just hit left-handed. But you see the talent. And yeah, Gregory Soto, Alex, 100%. Like, this is what I pictured. And, to see that there's two lefties in the bullpen is just huge for a guy like Mendoza can pick his spots with these lefties. And Gregory Soto, that's what he can do. Again, when he's not wild and when he loses the plate, it can be a bad time. But when he's on and when he's located, he's almost unhittable. His whiff rate is like at 90-something% when he's on, which is outstanding. And I guarantee you that's one of the statistics that David Stearns looks at bringing in a bullpen arm here. So this was an outstanding performance by the bullpen. Didn't give up a run in this series. And this is prior to Gregory Soto. These were the Brazabans, the Staniks, the Reed Garretts, the Diazes of the world. So a really, really great start to the West Coast. 3 more games on the West Coast against San Diego. Everybody did their job. There wasn't really much to talk about. Even Mark Vientos, got that 2-run double yesterday and ultimately became the winning 2-run double to win the Mets the ball game. It was nice to see, but it's just all the other at bats that are issues with Mark Vientos. And again, you see it. Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty, they're versatile. They can play second and third and play very good defense. They're providing more offense than Acuna and Vientos. And I think that's what you have to look at when it comes to what can you get on the market to get better. The Mets want a bat. They're looking for a bat. Whoever that may be, it will be, right? I don't think anybody should be upset if it's Mullins or if it's Luis Robert or if it's somebody else that we're not even talking about. We'll get a little bit more into it on the show at 11 p.m. tonight as we have a Mets trade watch because, again, with all the pitchers coming out of the bullpen for the San Francisco in their bullpen game today, Vientos didn't see the field. He didn't even get an at-bat. So, and, the game is still tight, up until the 7th inning when the Mets, took that 2-run lead. So there's a big possibility here that something's going to happen tonight. And we're going to have a show for about an hour and a half or so from a little bit after 11 until close to 1 o'clock. See if anything happens here. I truly believe something's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be with the Marlins. I don't know if it's going to be with the White Sox or something else. But if you were watching a broadcast, you were watching ESPN and you didn't have it on mute, or you got your notifications where Seth Lugo just signed an extension with the Royals. So he's off the board, which makes pitching that much more expensive. So that conversation of what could you give up for a Gallen or a Kelly or a Keller or a Alcantara or a Cabrera just went up. And we'll get into that much, much more as I have a couple of names lined up for you guys. And just, it's not exactly what would be in the proposal, but for each player, but it would be a combination. I would feel like the combination of players, and we can pick and choose what players we would send to what teams for certain players. And so we'll do that a little bit later tonight for the Mets Trade Watch show. Well, Dwayne, I agree. Mauricio can still be traded, but the consistency of playing Mauricio and Beatty for the last 2 weeks tells me who they really want on this team long term, or at least for this year. Who knows about the end of the world, the end of, after next year, who the hell knows, right? I just feel like it's the writing's on the wall. I think Acuna is definitely out of here, and I think Vientos is going to be in the trade. At the end of the day, if you bring in Luis Robert, if you, somehow work out a trade for another bat that we're not even thinking of right now, but he's potentially a DH type of bat. There's no point of Vientos on this roster. He's not playing third base because of Mauricio and Beatty. He's not a first baseman because Pete Alonso's there. He doesn't play second base, and he's not hitting to warrant the DH spot. So if the Mets decide to get a bat and it fills the hole of a DH, so be it. And I'm not even talking about Robert, Cedric Mullins, or Suarez. I'm talking about another bat that maybe we're not even looking at right now. We'll look at it, on the show tonight, see, if there's another bat out there that we're just missing that could be a good DH that Stearns might be looking for. And maybe Vientos is in that deal. But I think Vientos is definitely, I feel like I think there's about an 85% chance Vientos is going to get traded. Because if Vientos doesn't get traded, I don't see where he fits on this team. He's a defensive liability. Mauricio and Beatty basically took the job from him. And even with Mauricio not hitting prior to today, or prior to this last series, they still picked Mauricio over Vientos because of his defense. That's why you really have to pay attention to what's going on. I talked about this for a while. Go back in May when Luis Acuna wasn't even playing. He might have pinch ran twice a week, came in for defensive replacement, And I kept on telling Chris during the pregame, during the postgame, during whatever show, off day show, whatever it was, I kept on saying the Mets are putting the writing on the wall with Luis Acuna. They're not playing him. Even when Beatty wasn't hitting that much, they were still playing Beatty over Acuna. They were playing Vientos, who wasn't hitting, over Acuna. And when Acuna just came in for pinch running and defensive replacements, I said to Chris, I'm like, I truly believe that the New York Mets are putting Acuna to the side. I don't think they want to have him lose value. That's why I don't think they believe in his approach at the plate. I think, playing him more is only going to make him lose value at the big league level. Sending him down to the minors is only going to, it might develop him a little bit, but it's not going to raise his value. I think the Mets feel like they don't see Acuna a big part of this team in the present and in the future. And that's okay. You got to make decisions on prospects. You got to make decisions on certain guys. Again, guys, we have 4 guys who play similar positions and they're all outfielders. Infielders, excuse me. That can't be the roster. Those 4 guys can't be on the roster on August 1st. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning into the Mets Postgame Show. The Mets win 5-3, sweep the New York Giants 7 in a row for the boys in orange and blue as they head to San Diego for 3 against the Padres. Guys, as on and off this offense has been, they found ways to get some clutch hits. And the bottom of the order has been outstanding in this series, especially in this game. And, it is funny how we destroyed for a while the bottom of the order. But it's fun. We're finally seeing hopefully the emergence of Ronnie Mauricio. We see Brett Beatty establishing being a possible good player, right? I don't think Brett Beatty's ever going to be a great player, but if he's a solid professional player, plays good defense, hits 18 to 20 home runs, maybe bats 250. Same thing goes for Mauricio. I think he's going to have more power, but let's say he's another 20 home run guy batting 240, 250. Right? Those are solid players. You can put solid players around your stars like Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Lindor. And even if Alvarez becomes a solid player, you don't need, and they were talking about it on the broadcast. ESPN doesn't say a lot of good stuff, but if you heard them, the only guy the only 2 guys that are not homegrown in the lineup today was Lindor and Soto. Everybody else was homegrown. So everybody's saying that the Mets don't develop their farm system or develop players. Absolutely wrong. That's awesome. That's a beautiful sight to see. Now, I can care less if we have even one homegrown talent. I don't care. But it is cool to see that what the Mets have been trying to build, and even prior to Cohen, when it came to Pete Alonso, when it came to Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, this was pre-Cohen. This was pre-Stearns. This was the Wilpon, Sandy Alderson era. Right? Those guys established themselves into stars to really good players. And then you add it on here with the trade of Francisco Lindor, of the signing of Juan Soto, Alvarez becoming a starting catcher. Hopefully Mauricio and Beatty are staying because, again, do establish themselves because, again, if Mauricio and Beatty become solid players, again, I'm not talking about becoming a star, including Mauricio. I'm not talking about that, right? It's always nice that they become stars, but you don't need stars at every position. I think we've talked about that forever. You need solid players. Play your game, be who you are, and you'll be fine. That's where I think this is a really good sign because you need supplemental players around your stars. And if Beatty and Mauricio can establish themselves as solid players, you just solved your second base and third base positions by the guys that you developed. Beatty has took a little longer. Mauricio is coming back from injury. I always thought Mauricio was going to be the starter at third base if he never got hurt. And I think it's developing into that. And again, why not use the assets that are expendable in Acuna and Vientos to get proven players in there? If it's a starting pitcher, and they talked about it on the broadcast, and it's been reported. David Stearns is looking for somebody who can pitch in the playoffs as a number 1, 2, or 3. So just look at the names that are available that are considered a 1, 2, and a 3. We already talked about it. Cabrera, Alcantara, Gallen, Keller, Kelly. And they brought up Joe Ryan, but a lot of people believe that the Twins are not going to sell on Joe Ryan. I think if Joe Ryan's available, I think the Mets are going to go very hard after him. Now, that's a topic for later tonight if we want to get into it, if the Twins are actually going to trade Joe Ryan, which I don't believe they are. But you never know. Crazy things have happened, right? If the Twins, lose 4 in a row right by the deadline, maybe they do trade him. Who knows? Yeah, they're on 4 for 4. Ronnie Mauricio, a home run, excellent game for Ronnie Mauricio. He the first 4 for 4 game in his career, and he whatever we were talking about prior to today's game, guys, the back and forth that we had in all these shows in regards to Mark Vientos. If David Stearns was on the fence about trading Mark Vientos, because I never believed that Ronnie Mauricio is going to be, again, teams asked for Ronnie Mauricio, of course. They probably asked for Brett Beatty too. I don't see David Stearns trading those two guys. I feel like today's game, if Stearns was on the fence about trading Mark Vientos, I think he hopped over. I think it made his mind at ease, where this is what they expected from Ronnie Mauricio. I always thought that. I always thought Ronnie Mauricio was the apple of their eyes. They know how talented he is. And with Brett Beatty being somewhat established and looking like a professional ball player, it makes life easier for David Stearns. There is no reason to keep Vientos and Acuna around here. Yeah, but exactly. And like I said, you see Ronnie Mauricio has a plan at the plate. Did you see him adjusting every at-bat today? Did you see him taking that pitch on the outside corner to left field? Taking it the other way? A ball running in on him, he pulls and hits it down the line over the wall into McCovey Cove. Like that is the adjustment that we were hoping to see from Mark Vientos sometime this season. You got 4 days until the deadline. You can't wait until September to hopefully have Vientos figure it out. So it's going to be very interesting. I think they made it a lot easier by the play of Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty over the last week, where Vientos has not been playing well. Basically is not a defensive player anymore. He's basically a bat. And Acuna is just hanging around, probably looking at cities where he can live. Like, it's just a fact, right? In a perfect world, we keep everybody. But it's not a perfect world. It's not a perfect league. You got to do things for the betterment of your team. And right now, center field is a hole offensively. You hope third base and second base with Beatty and Mauricio turn into solid players. And again, they don't need to be great. I'd like that. But you need solid players. If you can get that, you're fine. Because now the only hole is center field, and it makes the job a lot easier for David Stearns the next couple of days, where he can focus on starting pitching and bullpen and still get a center fielder, because it's going to be that much easier to package Vientos and Acuna, and if it's separate deals or similar deals, to get the player he really wants. Like, if it's between a couple of teams and you can get a Stanley Alcantara, you can get a Mitch Keller or a Merrill Kelly, whoever it is, and it happens to be one of those guys are in that trade and you were kind of on the fence with them, well, it made that a lot more easier. So once again, guys, the New York Mets win 5-3, sweep the series against the Giants, 6 games with the sweep, and that extra game against the Reds, 7 in a row it is, 18 games over 500, just exactly what the doctor ordered. There is no better time to be red, smoking hot, like the New York Mets, while the deadline is approaching. That makes your front office very giddy. It makes your front office want to help this team some more, right? When you're struggling down the stretch towards the deadline, sometimes your front office was like, I don't know. Why should we give up this to get that? We're struggling over here. But when you're red hot, you're chalking away at the coming towards the deadline. I think it just motivates your front office. It motivates David Stearns. I think something that he might have not done, he's more willing to do at this point right now. Again, you're a top 3 team in baseball. You're not fucking around anymore. Right? When you're at 62 wins and you're 18 games over 500, you are one of the better teams in baseball. You are what teams are looking at. You are like, the eyes are on you. There is no reason for any trade to be denied from David Stearns to get better, because there's no excuses. How many times have me and Chris talked about this, including Zach? How many times have we said this? There's no excuses. This is a win now team, right? We don't know how many prime years you're still going to get out of Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso if he stays, even Jeff McNeil, who might be on his way out after this year. These guys are 30 and over now, right? You're going to have guys that are 32, 33, 34 years old, right? At the drop of a dime, their prime can be gone. You can't waste these years. You can't waste these really good seasons from Brandon Nimmo. You can't waste another really good season from Lindor. You can't risk possibly not having Pete Alonso after this year and wasting another good year. Jeff McNeil is having some resurgence. You can't waste those years. Because once they get too old, you hope the young guys can replace them. But there's no guarantee. Take advantage of the stars you have in your team. The guys who've been there a while. They're in their 30s now. They're above, some of them above their 30s. You got to start winning with them. You didn't pay all this money to Brandon Nimmo, Lindor, possibly Pete Alonso, and even gave an extension a couple of years ago to McNeil to waste those years. You paid them to be the linchpin, the core of this team. So when it comes time to be a contender and be in the middle of everything, you give everything you can to this team to help them out over the next 2 months of the season into the playoffs. So with that said, I'll see you in about 25 minutes or so, give or take. Give me a few minutes to get together. Don't worry, if you're on this stream right now, it's gonna, after the stream's over, it's gonna redirect you right to the Mets trade deadline. The Mets trade watch show at 11 o'clock. Again, it's gonna be around 11:10, 11:15, maybe 11:20. Just give me a few minutes to get everything settled, situated, and ready to go. So all you gotta do is just sit here and wait to get transferred to the other stream. And when you get transferred to the other stream, guess what you got to do, guys? Hit on that like button, because when you hit that like button and the stream hasn't started yet, the more likes we get, the more that stream's going to get at the top of the list. And the more people, the more fun it is, the more conversations we have, the more opinions we have, because we all got different of opinions. No matter you disagree or agree. The fact of the matter is, we all want to win here. Just because we have different ideas of how to do it doesn't mean that we're not looking for the same goal, and that is to win. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning into the Mets Postgame Show. Stick around. It's going to redirect you to the Mets Trade Watch Show at just over 11 o'clock. So just stay here, hit that like button, talk amongst yourselves as, who said that? I think it was, let's see, who said that? Damn it. I lost it. I'm sorry, guys. Damn. I'm a little upset. Somebody said it. I forgot who said it. Oh, Rock. Rock said it. Right? Talk amongst yourselves. Curse me out if you want to in the chat. Whatever you got to do. Let's have some fun. All right? So talk amongst yourselves in the chat, and we'll get really into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. Hopefully we get a trade within the hour and a half to almost 2 hours of a stream into the next stream. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in. 5-3 Mets, sweep 7 games in a row, 18 games over 500. I'll see you in about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes or so. Let's go Mets, guys. And I'll see you in just a few minutes. Let's go Mets, guys.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife.